Oh, there are really a lot. This was not part of our invitation to the unconditioned dialogue in Art Notes, because I thought this is going perhaps too far. But since around 10 years or so, I'm thinking about new faculties for the future, new faculties for especially for art schools and for institutions who are dealing with art. The first one is I invented or reinvented is a faculty for dignity. The second one is a faculty for unconditioned hospitality. A third one is a faculty for how to develop uncensorable systems. Very crucial for the future of artificial intelligences, uncensorable systems. How can I develop systems? It's a paradox, and we are very close to pataphysics. How can I develop a system which is not controllable or not completely controllable? I had a lot of discussions with that with one of my PhD students, David Link. He just published a book generated completely by his poetry machine, by the computer, and of course his poetic genius. Sorry. This question plays a very important role. What happens when you bring in ambiguity into a learning machine, not only by coincidence but by system ambiguity? Then you get something very exciting. So this would be part of this faculty, just to give you an idea. But there are also faculties for Kairos poetry or for chaos pilots, which I would like to have in the future. The term, I could go on because it's quite a set and quite an architecture of faculties which I developed. It's around 15 different faculties, which of course never will exist as faculties, but you can practice them as projects. And this is perhaps the idea behind it. With Bruno Latour, we did already something like that with the Critical Sounds project. He did not know, but from my side, it was very much intended. And anyway, these faculties, I think, are extremely important. They are going beyond the questions of media. In none of these faculties, the term media is existing, is arising. It's not there. But of course, it's always rumoring inside of them. When I have a faculty for critical engineering, for example, how to engineer machines in a critical way, that they can also react on critical situations and things like that. Of course, there are a lot of media theoretical implications in that, but I even don't use the term media anymore to define this. It's this broader interest about the relation of art, science, and technology, which is inside of these faculties. If I come back to our call for the papers for Art Notes, I was very much thinking about one part of the call where nobody reacted to, and this was the question of new subjectivities. I addressed this in the call very clearly, and I'm very interested in this issue. What kind of subjectivity concepts do we need for the present and for the next future? Is there an alternative to the European ego? I think, therefore I am, ego, the Descartes concept of the ego. I think there are alternatives, but we have to learn them, and we have to develop them in dialogue with other thinking systems. The Chinese concept of what subjectivity is of course quite different. When you study Confucius, for example, you will learn that the we is much more important than the I. Confucius said, when I say I have an idea, I put the other one into the shadow of my idea, because I had the idea, not him or her. This is the entrance to thinking a subject which is much closer connected to the other, to the we. At the moment we have the confrontation between, to put it a little bit simple and frankly, between the Far East, especially China, and the European concepts of subjectivity, which you can call an antagonism. There is no possibility of coming together between the unconditioned we and the unconditioned I. The unconditioned ego and the unconditioned we don't fit with each other. My hope for the future is that there will be fusions between the two concepts, and now we can observe that in the West, that more and more ideas of collective working, of working together, of team working, of the we as a conditioned form of being together, not an unconditioned, but a conditioned or a conditional, which also means a temporal. When you are working in a team, in a group, and so on, there are a lot of artist collectives at the moment all over the world. Again, when you work inside of such a collective, you know that it's not for eternity, it's not for 100 years or something like that, it's for a short time. We have a project, let's do that. We have an idea, let's realize that, and so on together. And sometimes a network is generated out of that, and so on. And it's, when you observe carefully the situation in China, for example, at the moment, you can see a similar development, but just from the other side. The ego, the individuum, the singularity, the particularity comes more and more into the discussion. In China, this has also an important reason in the fact that many of the young people were studying in different parts in the United States, some were in Europe and so on, and they bring this kind of subjectivity back to their home country, and it's rumoring inside of it. My hope is that these different concepts, these antagonist concepts, one day will come together. We are not so far yet, because when, for example, the United States of America and China are somehow meeting together, it's always a collision. Bang! It makes, we can be happy that it doesn't come to a war situation. We have enough of that. But they really do not understand each other yet. And there is a lot of work to do, and this is, of course, also a hope. So when I was very, not irritated, but I found that interesting, that these quite advanced idea that we need new subjectivities for the future, nobody reacted to that. and also the question, this is the other plea I have for the future, also the question of deep time. There were some interesting historical projects discussed, or media archaeological projects discussed in the different contributions, Erki Huchtamo, Amador Vega, and others, but the deep time issue, going back for thousands of years in thinking about the challenges we have for the future, was not so strong. Perhaps this is not so fashionable at the moment, but perhaps you can also see with this example that media archaeology has not developed far enough yet. We need a lot of more research in this deep time, in this deep time research. I give you an example. When I give lectures on one of my favorite subjects, on clockwork, clockwork as the most important instrument and tool for modernity. Of course, I go back to the early modern times in Europe, to Dondi in Italy, and so on, 14th century, 15th century, and so on. Then I go back to the Arab culture and discuss their wonderful clockwork, which they developed between, let's say, 800 and 1200. So we are in what we call the Middle Ages for Europe and so on. But of course, we have to go further back. I don't mean now at the moment, not the antique Greek tradition and the antique Byzantine tradition, but I'm talking about monks and scholars in the 6th, 7th century in India, in China, in Persia, who were thinking about mechanisms which later have become absolutely crucial for the functioning of a clock. And they were thinking that, of course, in a different concept. In a different context. There you are again with the idea of variantology regarding art, science, technology relations. They had different questions, but they came to the conclusion that it's wonderful, for example, if you want to measure a continuous form, continuous movement, you have to interrupt this intermovement. In German, it's called Hemmung. You have to build in a mechanism which creates a kind of a stop-and-go mechanism. And this stop-and-go mechanism you can count because it's discontinuous. So, you know, there we are in the 6th, 7th century. For me, this is always extremely astonishing because it completely destroys your idea of modernity. What is then modern? What keeps to be modern in the idea of clockwork? If somebody in the 6th and 7th century had invented already the most important parts of a mechanical clock, for example. So I hope that this deep time issue, which I tried to push in media archaeology and in media studies, is carried on and is picked up perhaps even stronger than it has been in the last let's say 10-15 years. The Near East is also a very important example. Hardly anybody took notice of our project on the Alas Automata, the big exhibition in 2015. The catalog was sold out within a very, very short time. But the project itself that we put on the agenda in 2015, which was already pretty serious in the Near East, the issue of an automaton culture, of a highly developed culture of technology and media technology in the 8th, 9th century in the Arab countries, in the Islamic Arabic tradition, was quite advanced, obviously, because most of the people still don't know that this culture which we are now confronted with in the Near East is definitely not identical with the deep time development of Arabic Islamic culture and philosophy.